Welcome to the Metal Verbalizers podcast. There are a lot of hardworking musicians and great music in underground metal. We want to support this, so we started this podcast. We also want to share the great underground music with you listening. If you enjoy this podcast, your support is very important, because the more people who find us, the more we can support the bands that we verbalize. In this episode, I will introduce a band by talking about the band's sound, influences, lyrics, name, future plans, and more. We are contacting the bands and asking them some questions, and this episode is based on the band's answers. I'm Johan Verbalizer, and this episode will be dedicated to the band Mortofobia. Mortofobia is a death metal band from Bolivia and was started in 1992. I feel pretty certain when I'm saying that this has to be the oldest band that we have ever talked about on this podcast. But I really like the music, and I feel like I really want to recommend this band to you, because I think that a lot of people would really like them. I also got in contact with the band, and they seem like super cool people. Definitely the kind of people that we are more than happy to show our support to. Currently, during the recording of this episode, the Mortofobia discography is the demo and Memoria from 1996, the split Hate Subterfugio Mortofobia from 2006, and the album Campos de Muerte from 2007, the EP Mirando a la Muerte from 2013, as well as the split Unidos por la Muerte from 2022. The band's origin comes from the members eventually meeting each other at some point and started talking to each other. After speaking for a while, they eventually started to realize that they share a great passion for extreme music, which eventually led to them starting Mortofobia. When they officially started the band, however, they didn't even own any instrument of their own at that point. So, needless to say, they had a kind of uphill battle from the start. But they managed to solve this problem, and they were ready to start working. In the beginning, Mortofobia played covers of songs made by bands such as Cannibal Corpse, Napalm Death, and Suffocation, etc. Bands like that, basically. But eventually they started writing their own music. When it comes to the influences of Mortofobia, it probably doesn't come as any big surprise that they are mainly influenced by the bands that they played covers from and that I just mentioned, like Cannibal Corpse and Suffocation. But also a band like Dying Fetus was also mentioned by the band as one of Mortofobia's main influences. I would generally say that if you like the type of brutal and raw death metal that is very straight in your face, in a similar style of kind of like Pierced from Within by Suffocation, I would personally say. I feel very certain that if you like albums and bands like Pierced from Within and Suffocation, I think that you will really enjoy the music of Mortofobia. Mortofobia also reminds me of old school Hypocrisy a little bit sometimes. And I'm talking about like Penetralia and Osculum Obscenum type Hypocrisy. I think it might be mainly the vocals that I'm associating to those albums and to Hypocrisy. I don't know. I think the vocals really remind me of Magnus Broberg sometimes. The image of Mortofobia revolves a lot around death. The lyrics, album artwork, and the band's logo all include this subject in one way or the other. You can also tell pretty easily by the fact that pretty much all the band's releases have a title including something that is referring to death. Most of the releases even literally include the word muerte. which basically means death. The artwork includes things like skulls, which I guess is basically the ultimate symbol of death. So that makes a lot of sense considering the theme Mortofobia is going for, as well as body parts and things like that, etc. And something else that I would like to bring up here is that the music of Mortofobia isn't brutal just for the sake of being brutal and sounding cool or something like that. It also has a deeper meaning to it. The brutal sound is meant to represent the brutal reality of death. And also, the vocalist and guitarist Cartelayo have experienced almost dying 3 times. So death is a subject that has a very specific and important meaning to him on a personal level. He has decided to use this for Mortofobia as a way to talk about it through the band's music and lyrics. So when it comes to why the band is named Mortofobia, the band answered with life. The way I understand this is muerte basically means death. So if you have a phobia of muerte, you have a phobia of death. So it's kind of a way to say life, but in a negative definition. The name doesn't say life, but it basically says not death, which at the end of the day basically means the same thing, right? Because, I mean, what is the opposite to death? Well, life. When it comes to the future of Mortofobia, the band is currently planning on promoting their new release El Silencio de la Muerte, as well as playing live in Bolivia and in other countries in South America. These are my thoughts and comments about the band, but now I would like to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Mortofobia? Do you have a favorite song by this band? If so, which one? Let us know in the YouTube comments or on social media. We have now reached the end of this episode. It means a lot to me that you've been listening all the way to the end. I really appreciate that. If you want to support us, great ways of doing so are subscribing on YouTube as well as following on Spotify, Facebook and Instagram. While you're on Spotify, feel free to also rate the podcast, as well as generally liking, commenting and sharing. All of this can be done very quickly, very easily and completely free. But it would really help the podcast and the bands that we verbalize. So we would be very thankful if you would like to support us. But yeah, we will be back to verbalize again next week.